So welcome to the Strength Culture for today's video, where we're going to be discussing pulling the tension correctly out of a conventional deadlift. Last week we touched on the sumo deadlift, so if you're a sumo puller and you haven't seen that video, the link is in the description box. Also, this is the thumbnail, go back and check that out. But today we're going to be almost exclusively talking about the conventional deadlift and pulling the tension correctly with this. The difference between a sumo deadlift and a conventional deadlift is obviously that the feet are a lot wider in the sumo deadlift position. And this offers one really good benefit for sumo pullers. And that is that it allows them to utilize their quads a lot more, because when they're in this position and they start to bend the knees, because of the openness of their hip, it allows them to keep the knees behind the bar, which means I can load my quads and keep coming down almost into a squat position without shoving the bar forward. Whereas if we're in a conventional deadlift and we move down into position and I want to get lower and load my quads more, what tends to happen is the barbell starts to shove forward as my shins come forward because my knees need to move forward. This in here lies the difference between loading and tensioning the bar in a sumo deadlift and how it differs from a conventional deadlift. The idea is still to load the quads as much as possible in the conventional stance. But what we need to be aware of is that in order to load the quads, we're not actually dropping the hips lower like we would in a sumo deadlift. When I'm here and I want to load my quads, I just drop myself into position. Whereas with a conventional deadlift, when we're in this position, we need to do the opposite, and that is actually start to drive the legs through the floor rather than drop the hips. So we're gaining quad tension by extending the knees rather than moving down into position and using our body weight underneath the barbell. So in this conventional deadlift setup, what I'm looking for is a nice rigid torso by pulling the lats on and crushing the oranges or squeezing down on your armpits. And then from this position, I'm actually starting to push my quads through the floor. Most people have used the leg press before, and this is probably the best analogy or the best context that you can use for pulling the slack correctly in the conventional deadlift. When you're on a leg press and you hold nice and tight and rigid and make your torso nice and rigid by holding the handles, and then all we have to do is push the leg press away with our leg. That is exactly what we're trying to do here with a conventional deadlift. So when I'm set myself up into position and I lock myself rigid and hold onto my torso tightness, all I'm starting to do is maintain my hip height and push my quads into the floor. The best telltale sign for you to see if you're pulling the tension correctly in a conventional deadlift is at light loads, the bar should actually begin to float whilst you start to pull tension out of the bar. Here at 70 kilograms, I can quite easily pull 70 kilograms worth of tension out of that bar. If I went to 120 kilograms, I can still maintain enough tension through my torso and through my quads that bar is going to float before I initiate the press through the floor and actually lift the barbell, so initiate the deadlift. And this is often almost like a skill developer that we use with fresh conventional pullers, and that is we load maybe 40 or 50 kilograms on a bar, and we teach them to actually make that bar float just purely by pulling their torso nice and tight and starting to load their quads through the floor. Hopefully this video happened to help you out if you're a conventional deadlift puller. If you have any questions, drop them in the comment section below. All of our links for our socials, our website, and our online coaching are available in the description box. As always, happy lifting and welcome to the culture.